Hello, I'm Matt, and I'd like to welcome you to the channel. This channel is dedicated to inspiring you, if you're substantially overweight, to find a healthy way, and not necessarily my deciding for life way, but a healthy way for you to lose that weight so you can feel as awesome as I do. But before we get started, I'm going to go throw this backpack that has 70 pounds of lead in it on my back and take you for a 1-mile woods walk while we discuss Chapter 14 in my book, Deciding for Life, How I Lost 70 Pounds Without Working Out and While Still Eating Foods That I Love. Chapter 14 is titled, Once You've Reached Your Goal, Set Another One. So let me go throw this backpack on and we'll get going. Oops. Okay, but before we get started, I have to give a quick disclaimer. I am not a medical professional, and I give no medical advice. My goal with this channel, and with this book that I wrote, is really to inspire you, if you're substantially overweight, to find a healthy way, and like I said, not necessarily the deciding for life way, but a healthy way for you to lose that weight so that you can feel as awesome as I do. So if you see anything in my book or on my YouTube channel that you want to try for yourself, make sure that you consult with your physician first, because something that is healthy for me, that works for me, may not be healthy for you with your health conditions. So ensure you check with your physician before you attempt anything that you see in my videos. On to today's chapter. Once you set a goal, set a new one. The first goal that I really set once I reached my goal of 165 pounds was to write this book that I wrote, called Deciding for Life, How I Lost 70 Pounds Without Working Out and While Still Eating Foods That I Love. And the biggest inspiration for my book was a lieutenant that I used to work for when I worked for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, named Stephen Spates. I worked for him for quite a few years, and out of all the lieutenants that I've worked for, he was really the most enjoyable and really the lieutenant that really helped me grow more than anybody else that I ever really worked for, because he really expected you to do your job, and he wasn't going to come and do your job for you when he came to a scene. He expected you to know what your job was and to get it done. He didn't just come to a scene and take over total responsibility for the scene. He expected you to handle your responsibilities. But back when I lost 80 pounds when I was working for him, he really encouraged me to tell other people about how I lost my weight. And at the time, I really didn't think about how important it was to tell other people about how I lost my weight. I lost it so slow that until I really reflected on it afterwards, you really don't, because you lose it so slow, it's really hard to appreciate how much better you really truly do feel. And that's one thing about losing that 80 pounds, gaining back to where I was about 240 again, because I went from 265 plus down to 185, and then I gained weight back and got up to about 240 pounds. And this time I'm down around 165. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But, losing the weight the second time really encouraged me and caused me to reflect on how much better I truly do feel when I'm not so heavy. Part of the goal with writing the book, and if you'd probably really notice it if you sit down and think about the title a little bit, Deciding for Life, How I Lost 70 Pounds Without Working Out and While Still Eating Foods That I Love. And part of the reason that I put the without working out in there is because so many people that I know that are overweight, one of their biggest excuses in life about being overweight is that they don't have time to work out. And it's really interesting. The more that I work on this process, the more I learn about food and exercise, the more I realize, you really can't exercise yourself into great health. You really have to control what goes in your pie hole. And doing this system without working out has really taught me, how important controlling what I eat is versus necessarily controlling how much I move around or how much I work out. Because I lost 70 pounds without working out, and it really wasn't my initial intention. When I first started that process, I really had planned on starting to work out when I got down to about 200 pounds. But and part of that thought process was, is I really don't like to beat myself up with that extra weight by starting to work out before I get some of it off. Because if you even think about, having an extra 40 pounds on and going for a run and the effects that that has on all your joints, it makes you really think about it a little bit. And it's one of the reasons I'm really kind of glad that I did this whole system without working out. The other excuse that people talk about is they can't eat the foods that they love if they go on a diet. And for many people, if you're trying to eat right 7 days a week, 365 days a year, if that's how you think you have to lose weight, I can understand that really, because, it would be really hard to give up the foods that we love. But the way that I use this system, which I learned from the Body for Life system, is that, you can eat really good for 6 days of the week, and I still have carbs every day. I still eat foods that a lot of people wouldn't call diet foods, every day. But because I'm very intentional about what I eat, when I eat, and how much I eat, I'm able to lose weight 6 days a week. And I do gain a bit back on the 7th day on my cheat day, but it all balances out. But it does allow me to lose weight while still eating foods that I love. And that's another big excuse that people have for not losing weight. A lot of people think, okay, you're retired, you have all the time in the world, to dedicate to cooking foods and, focus on what you eat and controlling what you eat. But a lot of people probably don't realize I'm truly busier now than I was when I was working for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And I always pretty much worked 60 plus hours a week when I was there. But you have to keep in mind, now that I'm retired, I found a schedule that works very well for me. But it keeps me very busy. We went from having a 1/4 acre lot in Jacksonville that would take me just a little bit to mow with a push mower to a 13 acre piece of property out here in Lake City that I pretty much spend all day when I'm doing the yard, getting the yard and the trees and everything else done that I want to do for the day. So this place by itself keeps me rather busy. And on top of that, my schedule, I basically start out at 5:45 every morning. Even on my cheat day, I like to keep everything the same. It keeps my sleep schedule the same. And I get up in the morning and take care of my morning things, make breakfast for me and my sweetheart, and then I'll go in and wake her up with a back rub after I get my breakfast made, or our breakfast made. And then we have breakfast, and usually by 9-ish o'clock, we're out working on whatever project we're working on. Either she's in her laser shop and working on something there, and I'm either out in the workshop or out on the property working on videos, or sitting at the desk, because it takes a lot of time to edit these videos. You'd be surprised how much time I spend just editing this one video to make a video plus a bunch of shorts to try to draw people to the channel and encourage them to feel as awesome as I do. It takes quite a bit of time to do all of those things, and typically, we have our normal breaks. We have breakfast between 8 and 8:30. We typically have lunch about noon, and then I have a snack at 3, and then we usually eat between 5 and 6. It's not a specific time. Sometimes we're a little early, sometimes we're a bit late, depending on what we're doing, but it's between 5 and 6 most of the time. And then we'll have a snack about 9 o'clock, which is when I shut down for the day, because typically I work on something until 8 or 9 o'clock every night, related either to this channel, the business, or taking care of this place around here, because it does take a bit more work to take care of 13 acres than it took to take care of a 1/4 of an acre. Now, this woods walk takes me about a half an hour to do the walk, and then I'll spend several hours cutting the video up and editing out what doesn't need to be in it and making shorts, and then it takes time to get them all posted. So pretty much the day that I do my videos, pretty much what I do for the day is the videos. So it keeps me pretty busy, but the reality is if I can help somebody feel as awesome as I do, then it's worth it to me. I've always been a person that's served other people, and that's what I'm going to continue to do the rest of my life. God put me on this beautiful earth to serve the people around me, and that's what I'm going to do, as long as I can continue doing it. Like one of my sayings is, I'm going to make it until I don't. I'm going to keep going until I can't. One of the other goals that I set with, when I finished my first goal was to spend, the next, year, year from when I hit my goal, working on another book that I have in mind that'll be coming out in December, that hopefully, encourages more people to feel as awesome as I do. And some of the things that I've really appreciated, that I've really learned from this process is, when right now, as of this morning, I weighed 167.3 pounds. It is a little bit above my goal, and I'm fluctuating a little bit as I'm trying to figure out where I really want to be, specifically. I've done a little research on Grok to try to find out a really good weight for me for what I want to be able to do, while at the same time not carrying around any extra mass that I really don't need. Because in my mind, I'm not a medical professional, but at least to a person, a layman, it to me at least makes sense that the less blood my heart has to pump and the less oxygen my lungs have to process to provide the needed things for my body, the better off I am. So, but as long as I'm able to do the things that I want to do, and that's the balancing act that I have to find. I do a lot of physical things, so I can't be too light. I play around with a sawmill, play around out here in the woods with the tractor. I lift lots of things. Hardwood isn't exactly light. You pick up a 2x4 and it feels pretty light. You pick up the same size piece of wood in a hardwood, and boy, does it seem heavy. So I still have to be able to have enough strength to do the things that I like to do. I enjoy shooting a compound bow, and you have to maintain the strength to do that. And I'm a little down right now because I've been away from the bow for a little bit. So it's going to take me a little while to get back to shooting like I used to. But that's one of my other goals for this coming up year. But it's been interesting. I've been at this process. I reached my goal a year ago of hitting 165 pounds on Monday. And like I said, I was 167.3 this morning. And, but that's a year ago. Now, I know the last time I lost 80 pounds, I didn't make it a year before I'd gained most of it back, or a good part of it back, because it really takes being very intentional to and setting new goals. And that's one thing that really helped me with this process, is I set a new goal once I hit my old goal of 165, was to maintain and work towards being able to provide better content and better inspiration to people through this YouTube channel and through writing another book. This first book that I wrote, never wrote one before. It was edited by my daughter and my wife, and we put it on eBay or on Amazon, so that hopefully I could inspire others to feel as awesome as I do. Hopefully this next book I'll be able to format it better and maybe inspire more people. But once you've hit a goal, if you don't set another one, I know from my personal experience, because this is truly the third time I've really lost a substantial amount of weight. I say substantial. The first time I went from probably maybe about 220 down to 185. That really isn't that substantial to me anymore, because right now I'm roughly 100 pounds lighter than the heaviest I've ever been. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week, because next week I'm going to change this backpack to another backpack, throw another 30 pounds of lead in it, and see how that goes, because I'd really like to know, how much better it feels not to be over 265 pounds. So I'm going to give that a whack next week, and we'll see how that goes. But it's really important to set new goals, because if you don't set new goals, it's really easy to go back to the old way. It's hard to keep working at the same goal that you hit. But when you set new goals to do new things, and one of them was creating the YouTube channel, which I've done. Another is writing the second book. Well, the first was writing the first book, because I didn't write the first book until after I reached my goal. And that was one of my goals. My goal going forward for this year included writing a second book. And like I say, that'll be out December the 4th, probably on Amazon like the previous one. So, hopefully But between a couple of books, I can inspire more people to feel as awesome as I do. If you have some suggestions that can make the videos better or make them reach more people, please leave a comment in the comment section, because this isn't about just my ideas and my way of doing things. I really want to get as much communication from other people that can help this reach as many people as possible. As the reality is, I haven't really been able to find an excellent way to articulate how much better I feel, to really inspire the people like I'd like to. I'd really like to find a way that people find more inspiring than what I've been doing. And if you have a suggestion, leave it in the comment section and I'll evaluate it and see if it's something that I'm interested in doing. I'm open to suggestions, because it's not, this channel is not about me, it's about helping people get to a healthier weight where they can feel as awesome as I do. Sure, I'm looking forward to getting back to that building and dropping this pack. It's an excellent reminder of how much better I feel when I'm not toting this 70 pounds around, whether it be in a lead backpack or in my mass, because I know that it was a lot more difficult to walk around out here when I was substantially overweight than it is now, even with this backpack. I wouldn't be able to handle this heat for half an hour very well back then. That building looks so good. It's kind of ugly, but right now it looks pretty darn good. I'm ready to get this pack off. Okay, we're back at the building. Let me get this pack off. We'll do a quick closing and get y'all on your way. Okay. I hope I've inspired somebody out there with this walk that I've done, this woods walk with 70 pounds of lead in a backpack. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. If you think this content can be useful to a friend, please share, because if they do find a way, and I'm not saying they have to find the deciding for life way, but if they do find a way to live a healthier and happier and yes, lighter lifestyle and get their weight to at least close to their BMI, they will feel so much better and appreciate you so much more. Thanks for watching, and may you have an awesome and healthier and happier and yes, lighter day.